Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you both secretaries for being here today. I want to start by acknowledging the sentiments of many of my colleagues about the urgent need for border security, for policy changes, and to changes in interior enforcement. I just want to take a minute to ask a couple of questions. I'm going to start, Secretary Mayorkas, when you testified on March 29th before the Homeland Security Subcommittee regarding President's FY24 budget proposal for your department, there were 6,610 encounters at the southern border. On Monday, that number was 8,500, which is 8.5 times more than the 1,000 daily encounters that your former boss, Secretary Jay Johnson, said would constitute a crisis. I know on that day, on March 29th, you did not say that we had a crisis. My question for you is today, do you believe that we have a crisis before us?
Senator, let me make this point that is very, very important because I've been asked, would I describe it as a disaster? Would I describe it as a crisis? I do not diminish the significance and the complexity of the challenge. No, if I may.
Well, I only have 5 minutes and I only have 3 left. So is it a crisis, yes or not? I guess I'm going to move on. Secretary Becerra, do you think that we have a child care crisis, affordable child care crisis in this country?
Senator, I don't think there's any doubt that we have
that's what I thought. Okay, so, but this is an emergency, Secretary Mayorkas. It is an emergency, though.
It is urgent that we receive the funding for our personnel and our tools to enhance the security of our border.
I think we just need to use the words it's true. It's an emergency. That's what this administration said. They put it in an emergency supplemental request, so let's treat it as such. Moving on, you did have a record year, though, in other ways. You put more people on the non-detained docket than previous 2 administrations combined in the entirety of their terms in office. This administration had near low levels of removal and detention beds filled, and this administration set another record for encounters on the southwest border. And as my colleague from New Hampshire mentioned, there was a 500% increase in the northern border in a 5-county area that impacts the area that she represents. When we talk about this, we don't need to manage the border, as it says in one of your requests here. We actually need to secure it. So in doing that, this administration has kind of had different positions, and I want to clarify it. Do you believe that a border wall is part of the answer, yes or no?
No.
No. Okay, so I have a trouble reconciling that with your the rule that you signed and issued on October 5th, where you said construction of physical barriers on the border of the United States would, in fact, prevent unlawful entries.
Senator, so if I may explain, the Congress mandated that we employ
But you didn't actually have to issue a rule. We could have done that. And one more thing, this administration and your department, the Department of Homeland Security, issued a contract for $500,000 in September of 2001 for the purchase and installation of a wall around this president's beach house. So you'll do know walls work. You do know they're part of the solution. You do know they're part of creating security. But for whatever reason, you feel like the American people are beneath that. And I think that it is incredibly frustrating. I only have a minute left, so I want to move to interior enforcement. When you're looking at the non-detained docket, I'm concerned about the growth of the number of people in the interior who are waiting years, if not decades, to have their cases heard before an immigration judge. So particularly if you look at this, the ICE officers, do we have the number of officers needed? Do they have the support that they are needed in order to manage this caseload of 6.3 million individuals and rising? So now with 40 seconds left, do you, when we have, let's see, the 1 million people that have had due process and need to be removed, do you believe that the ICE officers have what they need to be able to remove those?
Senator, as our supplemental reflects, we need more enforcement and removal operations officers. We need more support staff for them. Despite the constraint of inadequate resources, we have removed aggravated felons at a higher rate than the prior administration. We have interdicted.
I only have 17 seconds left, but you've only requested 45 more ICE officers. And the truth is, when you look at the 6,000 officers that we have and the 6.5 million people that are in the interior and the 1 million people that need to be removed. You're asking each of these agents to essentially, you've got to remove about 167 people if we were going to remove all 1 million in a year. We've got to be serious about what we're requesting. Y'all requested this 2 years ago, and either you aren't serious about it or my colleagues across the aisle didn't want to fund it, because those 45 officers that you requested did not make it into the omnibus bill. I am hopeful that we not only have the 45 that were requested, but we have much more. They have an important job to do, and we need to make sure they have the resources and the officers to do it. Thank you.